Are you ready, Raj? Okay. Oh, these are my people. Again, my volunteers. Wink, wink. Lexi, you can volunteer. Okay, you ready? All right, so today we're going to talk about volunteering any way you can. So first off, my central idea is that volunteering in your community will allow you to make it better, and it will also allow you to give back by using your talents. And my specific purpose will be that to persuade you guys to volunteer in your own community. So as we begin, let's talk about, have you ever noticed a need in your community? I'm talking like, have you ever gone to church and been like, wow, we need Sunday school teachers? Or maybe you're at church, or maybe you're at school and you're like, we need new mentors for our teammates program because we just simply do not have enough. Or maybe you notice that there's an elderly couple that just cannot maintain their lawn. Light bulb, right? So today we are going to talk about some of these needs, and these are just a few in my community. I know that there is an endless amount of needs in your guys' community. So we're going to talk about the importance of volunteering. We're going to talk about some of the hesitations that you might have about volunteering, and we're also going to address your guys' talents and interests based on my audience analysis. So let's dive right into the importance of volunteering. First things first, volunteering is extremely important. It affects us in our day-to-day lives. And why is that? Volunteering actually benefits us. According to McDougall and Handy in 2013, there is an actual relationship that it lowers your mortality rate. So it's not just because you're giving back, but it's also good for you and it'll help you live longer. So that's a bonus. Also, I think that Winston Churchill said it really good when he said that you make a life by what you make a life by what you make. I messed up that quote. You make a life out of what you give. You get a life by what you receive. So it's about giving. So it's like, have you ever noticed when you were maybe at school and you had somebody that helped you with your homework? They gave you that time, and you really felt grateful about that. But what about when you were the next person to help that person with your homework? You felt great because you were giving back. So volunteering is important. It affects us in our day-to-day lives. So let's talk about some things that are maybe holding you back from volunteering. So in my audience analysis, I saw that you guys said that a lack of time, a lack of motivation, and a lack of resources is the reasons why you guys don't want to volunteer. Is that true?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I believe that's true for the most part. So why aren't we motivated to go out and do things? I think it's because that we simply do not know all what there is out there to do things that we don't know. We can go out and do things that we actually enjoy. We can actually go out and do things that we want to do. Elizabeth Andrews said that volunteers do not necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. And I think that is so true because volunteers don't have time. They really don't to go out and do that. But what they do have, they have a heart for what they do, and that's what motivates them to go out and actually do the things that they have to. I think that, as I refer back to my audience analysis, 50% of you said that volunteering is very important to you. And that is awesome. That is something that I thought was very surprising, and it also helps my job and makes it easier to persuade you guys to volunteer. So now that we've talked about some of this jumbo mumbo about hesitations that you may have, you ask yourself, well, maybe Casey, I'm not the one that can actually go out and do that because I don't know how to, talk to people, or I don't know how to, handle kids in church. Well, so let's talk about for a second, what do you like to do? What are some of the interests that you have? Maybe it's you like to read books, so maybe you can, help volunteer out at the library. Maybe you are really just passionate about going out and mowing people's yards. You can go out and mow people's yards. That is something that I have a passion for, and that's what I like to do. So necessarily, you don't have to really know a whole lot about what you do. You just actually have to be able to smile. That's how you're able to serve. You're not able to serve always by using your hands. It's just by the gestures that you use. So now that we've addressed some of that, let's talk about what are your talents? What are your interests? In my audience analysis for 2018, I noticed that the two top things that you guys have interest in are serving for your church and serving for your school. So like I said at the beginning of my presentation, at the church, you can help out with an Awana program. You can help out with a Sunday school. That's a very easy example of how to serve at your church. Or you can work, maybe you notice that the school is asking for volunteers for their basketball team. You can go teach kids after school, say I only have a couple of hours, and you can do something along those lines. Maybe you noticed that your park in your neighborhood needs to be helped cleaned up. So what do? You go and talk to a couple of your neighbors and you be like, hey, let's clean up the park one afternoon. There's just so many different ways that you're able to serve, and maybe even it's not even that big. Maybe it's saying, hey, I have 10 minutes of my time to come and watch a speech for some dude that I don't even really know. And it's like, start out with something small. It's not that hard. So, like I said earlier, it's not that hard to do. It's just that you have to have the right attitude going into that. So as we're beginning to wrap up, let's think, we talked about the importance and why is it important, not just for our well-being, but also for our health. We also talked about the hesitations that you have, and that how motivation is something that has affected you guys. But we found out that if we use our interests and our talents, we can use them to get ourselves motivated to go out and serve. And then finally, we discussed some of the your talents and interests, and how you guys had an interest to serve at the church and an interest to serve at the school. So we wrapped with all of that. So I hope that this speech was able to persuade you guys to go out and serve in your community.